What you are about to watch is either going to save your academic career, or, if you ignore it, haunt you in the exam hall like the ghost of every lecture you skipped. Let's begin. Now, let's start with the uncomfortable truth that law schools rarely admit on orientation day. Law did not descend from the heavens on stone tablets. It did not emerge fully formed from the mind of some genius in a wig. Law is, at its core, a social technology. Human beings figured out fairly early in their history that living together without any rules is essentially just a very long, very violent camping trip. And so, out of self-preservation, they invented norms. Here's where your module starts, and where most students gloss over because it sounds obvious. The three categories of norms, social, moral, and legal, are the foundation of everything that follows. Miss this distinction and you are building your entire ILW1501 house on wet sand. Social norms are the unwritten rules enforced by public pressure. Not police, not courts, just people giving you that look. You know the one. You cut a queue at the taxi rank, nobody arrests you, but 20 pairs of eyes will make you deeply reconsider your life choices. That is social enforcement. It is real, it is powerful, and it is entirely separate from law. Moral norms are your internal compass, your private sense of right and wrong. They are not enforced by anyone outside your own conscience, which, as any criminal law lecturer will tell you, is a remarkably unreliable enforcement mechanism. And then we have legal norms. This is where things get serious. A legal norm is not just a rule. A legal norm is a directive backed by the coercive power of the state. That phrase, write it down. The coercive power of the state. It means that if you violate a legal norm, the state, through its police officers, its prosecutors, its courts, and yes, its prisons, will physically or financially intervene in your life. It is not a social media pile-on. It is not a guilty conscience. It is a warrant. It is a judgment. It is consequences with a badge and a government stamp. That is what separates law from everything else. Not how popular a rule is. Not how morally correct it is. You cannot explain the coercive sanction in your exam answer. You are literally giving away free marks to the examiner. And I refuse to let that happen to you. Let me make this real. You are living in a student residence. Someone, and we all know someone like this, keeps helping themselves to other people's food in the communal fridge. What happens? The social norm response is that everyone gives this person the silent treatment. Passive-aggressive sticky notes appear on the fridge. The group chat becomes a crime scene investigation. A genuine menace. Nobody is happy, but no formal authority is involved. The moral norm response is that this person's own conscience, again, assuming they have one, should tell them this is wrong. Perhaps they lie awake at night, haunted by the ghost of someone else's leftovers. Perhaps they do not. Conscience is inconsistent. The legal norm response kicks in if that fridge theft meets the threshold of theft under the Criminal Procedure Act. Suddenly, we are not talking about sticky notes anymore. We are talking about a criminal charge, a court appearance, a potential record. The state has entered the building, and it did not ask permission. Same act, three completely different responses. That is the distinction your examiner wants to see. Exam tip number 1. When asked to distinguish between social, moral, and legal norms, do not just define them. Illustrate with an example and explain the enforcement mechanism for each category. Students who only write definitions score around half the available marks. Students who apply, illustrate, and explain the enforcement mechanism score significantly higher. The example does not need to be sophisticated. It needs to be accurate and clearly applied. That's it for Lesson 1 in ILW1501. Please subscribe so you do not miss out on any lessons. See you in Lesson 2 of ILW1501.